Hey kids, it's England Teen with Independence Day Out, another group of independent comic book reviews. And while we are looking for some books that we could substitute for those really bad Marvel comics, we are not going to be giving you any bogus reviews. The books live and die on their own merit, the same way any Marvel and DC comic would. That being said, this time around there were no one-star books, so we're just going to start with the 2 stars. The 2-star books are merely bad. There might be some saving grace that keeps them from being truly horrible. Ghostbusters 101 number 4. I have to admit this is my first foray into the Ghostbusters 101. I have not followed them. I've got the issues and I haven't read them yet. But this one, okay, I started here and I've got to say at least they get you caught up. There is no real big backstory that isn't covered. So you can start off running right here, even though it seems like it's in the middle of a story because they explain everything. And so it's not a bad jumping on point. That being said, one of the huge problems is that with the new Ghostbusters and the classic Ghostbusters together, you start to see why the movie didn't work, because even in comic book form, the new Ghostbusters are written so irritatingly, you don't want to spend any time with them. It's almost like you want the classic to tell them to sit down, shut up, and watch and learn. It gets annoying after a while. The story is okay. You know, they go to Ellis Island to fight some ghosts, and the new Ghostbusters screw stuff up, so the classic Ghostbusters have to help them out. Of course, the final solution does come from the new Ghostbusters, so, you know, they've got that going for them. Overall, it was not really good. I would say it wasn't really bad, but it was more bad than average. So, you know, that's where it stands. Schick, Hydrobot, and the Transformers number 1. I'm pretty sure this is the only one. It's a little advertisement thing. And it's kind of cute because they used to do this kind. When I was a kid, this was everywhere. Actually, my favorite was the Frisch's Big Boy comic books. And I would not advise anybody to say that they read them unless you really want to date yourself. I think there's like one Frisch's left in the country. Anyway, back to the comic book. It's beyond stupid. There's a doctor working in his lab with transformium. It blows up. It turns his razor blade into a transformer. The razor blade helps the Autobots fight the Decepticons. It's incredibly simple. I think if you are more of a fan of Transformers, you're going to at least enjoy the stupidity of it. However, I'm sorry, guys. I can't get into it. It just wasn't there for me. At least it was silly enough that I wasn't offended by how bad it was. The 3-star books. Now, these are the ones that are average. They didn't elicit a response from us, good or bad. Beautiful Canvas wants to be a lot deeper than it actually is. It's the kind of book that in the middle of it has a character saying, "My gods," just to show that it's diverse in its thinking as far as creator versus creation goes. Unfortunately, it throws so much at us, so many different characters and so many different plots and subplots that nothing really sticks. And what ends up happening is, instead of taking a deep look at an issue, we have a whole bunch of shallow looks at a whole bunch of different issues, and the book ends up falling flat. There are some really interesting scenes, such as the one I show here and another, where it seems like this killer for a hire is talking to the dead people she's killed before, and we do find out why she's being hired to kill them, and at least that part is interesting. And I won't spoil it here just in case somebody does want to take a chance on the book. That being said, I found this to be very middle of the road. I wish it were as deep as it wanted to be, but as it is, it's an enjoyable but forgettable read. This is a bit of a return to the Valiant universe for me, except for Faith. And I'm not 100% about what's going on even here, because it reads as if you should know what already has happened in the Valiant universe. Apparently, something happened with the Harada Corporation where the Harbingers are all over the place, and some people are hunting them, wanting to kill them. Some people are hunting them, wanting to exploit. And then you have the two main characters you meet here that are trying to help rescue them and save them. It's a hodgepodge, a coherent story at this point, and in all honesty, I think it works a lot better as a part one to a trade paperback than it does as a standalone issue. And I'm not saying it's a bad book, it just is, like I said, it's a chapter one, it's not a first issue. The Black Monday Murders #6. I love this cover. I have no idea what it's about, and reading the book, this cover has nothing to do with, or at least it just doesn't seem like it connects on the inside. However, I mean, that's an impressive image. I don't know if it would attract people, but I gotta say, I like the cover. The story itself seems neither as smart, deep, or as scary as they want it to be. However, it still remains interesting. I like the parts in the beginning, the scene that we're seeing right here where seems like a cop is talking to just what is a normal woman, and they're having a little back and forth, and then she shoots her, and you find out she's some sort of creature, and then at the end there's some sort of witch trial. But in the middle of the story, they seem to interrupt the whole thing for two men to talk about business, and it took me out of the whole thing. It just, I wasn't buying it as much. I wasn't as invested. So I cannot recommend this as a jumping on point. However, having read this issue, it did intrigue me enough to want to pick up the next issues and find out what is going on in this world. The Walking Dead #169 is not bad. It's a bridge issue. Basically, Robert Kirkman has this way of having something happen in his books. It'll be a big event or just something small that has an emotional impact. In this case, there was a big event, and in that big event, Andrea died. This is the issue where people are dealing with it. Not just that, but the whole bit where the saviors tried to attack. So basically, this is a filler issue, but it's also a character issue, so it isn't bad. It works in the context of the story, but it is a book that is context. I mean, it's one more issue that fits a trade paperback than just a single issue. Not bad, just not an exciting book on its own. The 4-star books. Now we're getting to the good stuff, the stuff we can actually recommend. Red #3 was surprisingly good, and I love the cover, and I did not know it was a vampire story, but it is. It takes place on a farmhouse. The book opens with a huge slaughter that apparently took place in the last issue. So you're jumping right on into the middle of a story here, and it was hard to catch up, to tell you the truth. So what I had to deal with was basically finding out what had happened, why it had happened, and just a little bit about what's coming up next. And it's weird because it seems like there's two kind of feuding factions of vampire, and I don't know, it works. The dialogue is decent, the artwork is decent, and so far the action is good as well. You know, not for the squeamish, but if you like a horror comic, this one will do you. Judge Dredd Funko Universe, and this is a lot of fun. However, it reminds me of back in the day when RoboCop was being marketed to children, because it's absolutely not the right IP to be marketed to children, and except for it's so goofy to see. The fact that at one point he's getting a dog out of a tree, and it's out there, man. But this is the most fun of the Funko universe I've seen so far. Now, I mean, just look at this. It's ridiculous in the way that they do it, but it's, like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely written for kids in mind. If you know the IP, if you know Judge Dredd, you're going to enjoy it just to watch the dark judges become happy judges that want to hug people. It's insane. It really is, but entertaining. Kiss #9. I enjoy the book. It's a lot of fun, and I'm surprised because the last Kiss book I read was Kiss in Vampirella #1, and that just sucked. Now, they do the whole. I love this cover, by the way. This is my favorite of the 3 covers they have. And the story is these kids are in space. City is Japanese. You find out that they decided to have this huge concert in space, and while they were having the concert, the world faced destruction, so the city was floating around on its own. And these kids, they come to it and they're dressed like Kiss, and it's recognized that they're wearing warrior kabuki makeup, and they're said that they have to battle. Turns out that the battle they have to be in is a battle of the bands. It's fun, it's cheesy, it's stupid in all the right ways. I really like this book. Popeye Classics #58, and it is Popeye. I mean, we got 2 stories going on. The first one is Popeye has to travel to Africa to save a young lady from gorillas. And Olive Oyl, hearing that he's going after a 20-year-old girl, goes along with him. And in the second story, Sweet Pea eats so much spinach he becomes the strongest baby in the world, and Popeye has to teach him about having the responsibility of spinach muscles, which I always thought was interesting, because if you ever really read Popeye comics, you realize that spinach represents the iron, of course, that is in spinach, which represents the inner strength. So really, whenever he eats a spinach, he's just finding the inner strength to overcome whatever obstacle. Either way, it's a fun book, entertaining and enjoyable. The 5-star books, the best of the best for at least this week. These are the ones that are at the top of the heap. Alright, we got Clue #1. Now, I did do a full video review of this book, and I recommend you go check that out. It goes a lot more in depth than what I'm going to here, because basically here, obviously it's in the 5-star section. It is fun, it's funny, it's a mystery that you really have to solve. There's clues all throughout. You get 3 extra pages depending on the book you get, and it's going to be different clues at the end of each separate book, so it's not only different covers, it's different story at the end. There's a lot to love about this book, and there's very little not to. So once again, go check out the video with a full review. From the pages of Project Superpowers, we have Hero Killers. And it starts off at a funeral, so I started reading this as a serious comic book. And it very quickly into the story, you realize this has got to be some sort of parody. But then it's got serious tones to it as well. This is a funny book, and like I said, it's hard to know what to take serious, what to not. It is just, I mean, it's hard to describe. All I can tell you, it's going to be fun. This is one that you should pick up, because it rips apart everything. The sidekicks want to be heroes, so they're kicking off the heroes, and it's a lot. Like I said, I'm just gonna repeat the word. It's fun. It's something I have not read before, and that is saying something. So this is where I pay my bills, tell you about our Patreon page. The link is in the description below. If you don't mind, click on that. Go over, toss $1 into the till. Help us out. Help keep this little train rolling. I'd like to thank our 4 patrons that we have: DB, Sky Rose Boom, Jesse Novacek, and Patriot Cat, as well as our 5th and anonymous donor. Thank you all for helping us out. And to everybody, thank you very much for watching.